I have a question before we get started.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about how I was left to my own devices for several years before you were born, and do you feel bad about it?
Do I feel bad that you existed on this earth? I do feel bad that you went as long as you did in this life when I was here without really being active on AO3. I do feel bad about that. Like, if I had known that you were unaware of that situation, I would have told you in like 2012. And
Thank you.
that would have changed our life trajectories totally.
How true. How true. Well, I appreciate
That
you.
is what I feel bad about.
I
Is
appreciate
not
you
telling you
taking
about
responsibility
AO3.
for that. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate. Yeah.
and I do. And I take responsibility. I do feel bad about that.
Hello, and welcome to the Shelf Aware podcast. I'm Ren,
And I'm Lizzy.
and we are two lit obsessed sisters who love to talk about our favorite books, our favorite movies, our favorite TV shows, and discuss them in great detail. Some of us more than others. And we are, as you guys know by now, breaking down Heated Rivalry, which we both have a very chill level of interest in.
Casual, interesting.
Casual interest. So, a few reminders before we dive into it. One, as we've said before, we are focused mainly on the show, less so on the books, just because there have been some changes made from the show, from the books to the show. And so we want to be able to talk about that. We also want to be really conscious of not spoiling the books for people that haven't read them yet. That being said, we will occasionally bring in some little nice nuggets from the books just to add a little bit of extra something, but nothing that is too spoilery. The other thing that we've talked about before is that we often do draw parallels from the episode we're currently talking about to future episodes because those comparisons have been done and those setups have been done very intentionally. So again, if you are very sensitive to spoilers and you're not fully caught up on the show, something for you to be aware of. And I think that's it. I think that brings us into
This
third
is
episode.
This is episode 72 of the podcast. And we are on episode 1 of the show, minutes 24 to, let me check my notes.
Yes.
24 to 24 and a half.
Yes,
Those
absolutely.
are the minutes that we're talking about today.
Yes. We will spend 90 minutes talking about 2 minutes of television, and welcome aboard. So, all right, let's get into it. Last time we left you, we were talking about Shane and Ilya's first hookup, which I think transformative, right? I mean, we'll never...
Amazing.
Kiss. We'll never recover. They'll never recover. That's the important thing to pull away from. But I think what we talked about at the tail end of the episode was that Shane and Ilya, as they left that first hookup, left with two very different mindsets. Shane, kind of pulled into himself a little bit at the end of that, kind of needed some time to wrap his head around things. This was a huge deal for him to have this first experience and then also to have it with Ilya. And then Ilya, because as we've talked about, because of everything he's gone through with his family, Ilya does tend to be somewhat sensitive to rejection, and he really interpreted Shane pulling away as kind of a rejection of him, and that was hurtful for him. So we kind of see them leaving at the end of the hookup with Shane, arms crossed, sitting on the bed, just kind of trying to wrap his head around things. He does kind of smile though when after Ilya leaves and he has a chance to catch his breath, but then Ilya, we see him
Ilya's gone. Ilya does not see any of that happen.
He doesn't. We see him do a little good night and hesitate at the
question mark at the end of the good night.
Question mark at
good night. Do you love me like I love you? So sorry if you don't.
Somebody asked on one of my posts, like, what do we think about just how long it took Ilya to gather all of his clothes and stuff in the end of that scene, and like, do we think that's intentional? I absolutely do. I think it just prolongs the awkwardness and the tension, and just Ilya kind of just taking his time to gather all of his stuff up. I think it's definitely like he's waiting for something from Shane. He's waiting for Shane to kind of snap back out of it.
He's like giving him the time to realize. And
I think Ilya's also kind of just trying to like get his bearings and kind of figure out like where maybe things took a turn. And again, I think so much of this is that they just don't know each other that well yet. And when they veer into these sensitive issues for each other, Ilya again is just so sensitive to rejection. And so he does interpret that Shane's behavior at the end of this as potentially Shane pulling away from him. And so I think as we go into the next couple scenes, we see very clearly how they do have very different mindsets coming out of it, and then how they find their way back to each other, because they always do.
Yeah.
So where we pick up right after Ilya leaves and Shane is like, holy shit, is we pick up 3 months later. Shane is standing.
I'm parched.
Shane is standing at, I think, his like ginormous kitchen island, and he is watching Ilya's clip on his BlackBerry, and Shane is watching
4K,
and smiling.
5K. That video is
crisp.
You can smell colors on that video.
I wish, God.
And I remember what a video on a BlackBerry looked like.
Oh, same. Yeah.
It was bad. Okay? It was not good.
You see Shane watching Ilya's shirtless press moment.
Did he not dress himself before he came out of the locker room?
Ilya?
They're not in the locker room. They can't do that.
No, Ilya's...
He just walked out of the locker room shirtless? In Boston? During hockey season?
He's not outside. I think he's like standing in the hallway outside the locker room. And I feel like
outside the rink that's cold?
I feel like Ilya prefers to be shirtless. That is where he is.
I'm sure he does. No, I'm sure he does. But
that's where he's most comfortable. So I think a couple things from that little interaction. One, Shane is smiling. He's like giggly. Watching that.
What an asshole with the biggest shit-eating grin on his face.
What an asshole.
He's like, I fucking hate this guy.
I'm obsessed with and totally infatuated with. But I also love too that the reporter is asking Ilya, and she's like, what do you think about getting to Montreal? And he says, about time. Boyfriend is jonesing. He's like, I'm hurt, but I still want to see him. And then immediately we get Shane's a goalie now. And again, I think what we talked about last episode is you kind of get this impression like, oh, maybe things are fine, because Ilya's acting very cavalier, which is something Ilya's very good at. But then you see Shane getting all, Shane is the smitten kitten. And then he ends up late to lunch with his parents. And I think there's so many good moments about this lunch scene.
I do too. Yeah.
There's so many good moments. One, I think him walking in, and I see all the time people talking about how he had that light blue button up that he wears just continually. To me, that's not strange at all. I'm like, well, Shane would have
maybe
comfort.
He really likes that shirt. Maybe
he really
likes the
that
fabric
shirt.
Or something.
I have certain tops that I've had for like 9 years.
Yeah, that I like wear.
Yeah. He's like, this is He's like, this is a go-to shirt. This is a go-to shirt for me. But he walks in, and I think one of the things that the show does is really interesting is just like this progression of the dinner or the lunches with Shane's parents. He comes in this time, and it's like a 3-top, right? So he sits down, and they're like a little triangle.
He's at the point of the triangle.
Yep. And then later, when they have the Swedish princess lunch, they're at a 4-top, and then the place gets taken away because Ilya's not there yet, and because they've actually just broken up, kind of, at the tuna melt incident. And then at the end, we see at the cottage that they're at a 4-top again, but this time Ilya is in his place, because that very much was his place at the lunch prior, but he wasn't there yet. So I think that's a really cool thing they do, or it's just kind of like that. Again, the show is so good at layering in all these little things to be able to show how Ilya and Shane are progressing as the show goes on. And I think that's a really, really cool one. But then I also think we see this really interesting expression of just the different dynamics between Shane and his parents, and between David and Una. And I think this lunch tells us so much about Shane's relationship, because I think even when he shows up and Shane's like, sorry, I'm late, and his dad's like, don't even worry about it. And Una goes, we don't care. It's just you're usually on time. One of those things where Una does feel like she knows Shane so well. It's like, well, you're usually on time. She orders for him at the lunch later when she's like, well, honey, you don't lie. That's not you.
That's not
like
who you are.
Yeah, like Una feels very secure that she has this knowledge of her son. And I think that's why it is later when we get to the cottage, the fact that like she realizes that Shane has been hiding something of this magnitude from her is so
shocking.
Yeah, because I think we see even here, she does really feel like she knows her son. It's not even that he's late for them. It's the fact that he's late, and that's unusual.
He's just not a late person. Ever.
He's not. No. And I could totally see, of course, Shane is a punctual person. But
yeah.
But then I love too that Shane is like, yeah, I got lost down the YouTube rabbit hole. And then his mom switches into business mode and David
Immediately.
keeps immediately.
David, I loved David in this entire conversation because
Mhm.
he is continually like I he I feel like can sense like something
Mhm.
is afoot.
Yeah.
And he noticed that Shane was late in the exact same way. They just voiced it very differently.
Mhm.
Yuna was like, "Well, you're just not late." So I'm just kind of
Mhm.
confused about what that is. Whereas David, I feel like, goes into it trying to like talk to Shane and see if
Mhm.
he can piece
Just
together
to
what could
check
be
in with
going on.
him.
Just like
Yeah.
not talking about work, just like,
Mhm.
this is my son.
Yeah.
What has he been up to? I feel like he was and watching him and Yuna like go back and forth, like she is insistent on talking about this brand deal. And he
Yeah.
was like, I really just want to talk about what Shane is interested in right now.
Well, what's really interesting and is I think, I'm very hyper focused on their clothes. But I think what we see actually between Yuna and David is actually a very similar dynamic to what exists between Shane and Ilya. Why, like when we get to the
True.
cottage later and they're all four of them are sitting at the table, if you look at their clothes, David and Ilya are in like the same color scheme, and Shane and Yuna are in the same color scheme, and they're mirroring each other. And I think it is
Yeah.
very much meant to be this reflection of like these two relationships, and both very committed relationships. Even though Shane and Ilya are new to the I love you phase, they've been a thing for like 10 years. I mean, they're at this point, they are very committed to each other. And I think you see that in the fact that when Yuna asks him if he let Ilya win, and Shane's like, well, do you let dad win? Shane himself is putting that parallel in place of, well, you love dad and you don't let him win. And well, I love Ilya. So I think we see this kind of mirroring. David and Yuna's dynamic is very similar, I think, actually to Shane and Ilya's.
Mhm.
Shane is his mom, that laser focus, that like perfectionist tendency, that that intensity. And David is a little bit more of like the fun and like getting them to loosen up and not be so focused. And I think we see that impact of Ilya on Shane again at the cottage dinner, because Shane even says to Ilya, sorry, my mom cares about hockey too much. And Ilya says, like,
Ilya's,
"Well,
yeah, I see where you get it
I
from.
see where you get
Yeah.
it from." The fact that Shane is now recognizing
Yeah.
that his mom is a little over obsessed with hockey versus here
Yeah.
at this lunch, because at one point, like when Shane's talking about the rabbit hole, Una says to him, well, the ones you should have been watching are the ones about hockey. And Shane kind of gets this look on his face and he kind of nods. Like he kind of does take that as like a little bit of a reprimand. But it's
Mhm.
one of those things where it's like Una is just so laser focused on hockey. And I
Mhm.
think Ilya does have a very good influence on Shane in getting him to kind of understand that a little bit, that there are some things
There's more
that are
to
more
life than
important. Yeah.
hockey.
There are
Yeah.
things that are more important than hockey. And so I think that we see this again, this pressure that Yuna is putting on Shane.
Mhm.
And I think too, just the way that she talks about that email that she got about the Rolex deal, where she reads it out and he's smart, he's serious, which I think the serious thing is like really important. He's handsome, most significant ambassador in a
In a
generation. That is
generation.
so much pressure. That's so much pressure to put on someone who I think Shane is like, what, 19,
Mhm.
20, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
so young. That is so much pressure to put on someone. And, I think it's one of those things where I think Yuna is trying to impress on him the importance of all of this. But Shane is, I mean, that is a huge amount of pressure. Ilya has his own pressures that he's dealing with, absolutely. But like Shane
Mhm.
has a massive amount of pressure put on his shoulders with just this sense that he has to be perfect. He is an ambassador in a generation. He's a role model for kids that don't see themselves in the sport very often. Like you get these touch points repeatedly with Shane's mom, where I mean, he is really just getting the weight of the world put on his shoulders at
Mhm.
a very, very, very young age, which is going to be really hard for him to work against, and definitely gets in his head for sure. But then you see David kind of divert again.
He can see it. Like he's like you
He
can
can see
see
it.
and he does
Yeah.
this he does this as well in the scene in episode 6 where they're all sitting around the table. Yuna does a lot of talking. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yuna controls a lot of the
Yeah.
conversations that happen between that family. David is listening, he's
Mm-hmm.
watching, he's
Yes.
observing, and you can see
Uh-huh.
him in both of those scenes that he's just watching Shane. He's so focused on Shane and what Shane's doing and what
Yeah.
Shane's feeling. And he can see because Shane wears like a lot of his emotions, if you're paying attention, you
Oh,
catch
yes.
them. You like
Yes.
they flit across
Mm-hmm.
his face and he schools it
Yeah.
back into like
Yeah.
right? But like they come across his face and David catches it. And so as Yuna is talking about this and is talking about Rolex and all these brand deals and all of this stress that Shane is under,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
David can see that because Shane is visibly tensing up. He's like not really
Yeah.
smiling anymore. And David's like, so what's a YouTube rabbit hole? He's
What is
like, I
what
need,
is
yeah.
YouTube?
He's diverting from like that stressful conversation.
Yes, yes. I think David is really perceptive like Ilya is. Like Ilya is
Mm-hmm.
very perceptive and is able to clock stuff.
They are both very emotionally intelligent. Like
Yes.
Ilya and David. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are both
Yeah.
very tuned in to the emotions
Of
and
the
like
people around them. Yeah.
they observe very well like what's going
Mm-hmm.
on with their loved ones.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think where Ilya kind of strays sometimes is like he gets tangled up in his own like
Mhm.
internal things and that
Mhm.
sometimes that can cloud his view. But Ilya is very aware at all times. And
Mhm.
I think again we've talked a little bit about like Ilya having a sense of hypervigilance because
Yeah.
of, being a queer person in Russia, but then also growing up in an abusive home, having to develop
Mhm.
that sense of hypervigilance, having to know if the people around you are posing a threat to you.
Mhm.
And so I think Ilya's learned to do that really well because of this environment that he's grown up in. You see him being very, very perceptive. David almost has like a little bit of I think like a version of that I don't necessarily think is as trauma based, or he's just very good at like kind of picking up what's going on around him. He's really kind of, to your point, watching Shane. And I do want to talk a little bit about Shane's face because I was reading something from, I think Jacob Tierney was talking about how Hudson's very good at like doing the crying without the tears falling, like his
Oh
eyes well.
my oh my god.
Hudson's so good at that. Hudson is so good at that. And so therefore Shane is very good at that. And one of the things that Jacob Tierney was saying is that because he does this thing where the tears don't actually fall, Shane is not always aware. Shane thinks he's doing a much better job of concealing his emotions than he actually is. Because
Mhm.
in his mind, he's like, I am totally cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you think of like that when Ilya brought up like I could marry Svetlana, and Shane is looking at him like I could
The
go get a
look on
gun.
his face. Shane wears every single emotion that he has
Yeah.
ever had and ever will have on his face. And
Yes.
if you're not paying
Yes.
attention, you will miss it because he does realize he's having these feelings. And then he's like, okay, I have to school that emotion. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll see him like literally physically shake himself out of it and adjust his face.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
every emotion. And it's one of those things where like I get caught up trying to talk about it, but it's one of those things where it's like if I loved you less, I might be able to talk about it more. Like I feel
I
so
know.
strongly about his bro his acting in those
His eye
scenes.
acting. I know.
Like I feel like I'm looking in a mirror of like myself in a situation. Okay? And it
I know.
really I can't I can't talk about my own emotions. So how am I going to talk about his? Okay? So like I don't really
I
know.
I identify with Shane so much. I think there's so many things where I identify with Shane. This tendency he has where he has absolutely no fucking poker face is me. Like, and I am very aware of it because I mean, I think
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time on Zoom calls. I can see my face. If I'm in a conversation that's like particularly tense, I will cover my mouth because I'll put a hand over my mouth like this because I'm like, I know I don't have a good poker face. But I
No.
think what's funny too is like, I was thinking about this with Shane and I think I Hudson and Connor both, the subtleties of their expressions are just so incredibly good. And you know, we talked about like kind of like just that little kind of expression that he does when his mom is like, well, you should have been watching the hockey ones. And he kind of like looks down, like you can see, like, even though he doesn't say anything, you can tell that he definitely does interpret that a little bit as a reprimand. But then she starts talking about Ilya and the panic on Shane's face, because and
Panic.
you can see like
Yeah.
him like panic and then take, because he's literally just been watching Ilya, and you
Yeah.
can see him panic a little bit, and then he like takes a breath, and then you can literally see the thoughts in his head of like,
Yeah. I'm like,
okay,
oh, he's
be
thinking
cool,
about
be cool.
Ilya.
Be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool, and
Yeah.
be cool, be cool. And what's funny is I think, and I was thinking about this not just in this conversation that he has with his parents, but also in other conversations, is I think Shane does this thing when people bring Ilya up where he's like, oh fuck, be cool. And he gets this look on his face. And I think that's where people get this impression that he hates Ilya. But it's
Yeah.
literally him
Yeah.
trying to cover that he already likes Ilya to a point that is life altering. And he's trying
Yeah.
to cover that. And people are interpreting it as, as he hates Ilya. And in reality, Shane's like, fuck, 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 be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool.
Yeah.
Don't let on that you were just watching thirst traps of him on YouTube, and it's fine. And yeah, no,
Sure.
you're not already completely smitten with him. Like, it's just so funny where I think that people are clocking the emotion, but they're not clocking the correct root of it. Again, I think you see Shane's dad crack a joke, and then after that point, it's like it breaks the tension enough. Again, I think so similar to what Ilya does for him, where he breaks the tension often for Shane.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the rest of that conversation, Shane is having a hard time not smiling
He's
when his
giggling.
when his mom
Oh
is talking
my
about Ilya.
God.
And
Get a grip, baby.
I just
Jesus.
know that Yuna looks back on the fuck him
And
comments, and
she's like, my son was getting fucked up the butt by this guy, and I told him to fuck him up the butt. That's Yuna.
I
Dude,
know that
she's
Yuna.
not slept well for like months after episode 6. Like, she's not slept well.
I know that Yuna looks back and is like horrified. Like, I know that haunts her. But because what's funny is like at one point she's like, fuck him. And Shane's eyebrows lift just the
He's
tiniest
like,
little amount.
actually,
Like,
I wish you
noted.
would fuck me. Yeah. It's
I
like
would actually
I'm like, close, but not quite.
I would actually love to fuck him, actually, Mom. Hudson, therefore Shane's micro expressions through that whole scene are so incredibly done. And they're so fucking funny because just the whole journey that Shane goes through during the course of that conversation, from like the panic and then not
He
being
looks
able
like
to
he's having
contain
war
his...
flashbacks initially. Like, he's going
Yes,
through the full spectrum of human emotion in that.
he is. He is. But I mean, the fact that, and Connor is so good. Again, Connor is so good at this too. But the fact that both of them are able to convey that much with just the tiniest shifts of their expression is incredible. It's just a masterclass. It really is. I mean, and especially considering how young they are as actors and how early they are in their career. I mean, it's just incredible that they're able to do that. But I mean, it's that scene is so incredibly funny. I think it reveals so much about the dynamic that Shane has with his parents, but then also again where Shane is at coming out of this like first hookup with Ilya, and just you see like how freaking giggly he is about. I mean, he is so down bad. They both are. They're both down bad. Again, them sitting at the table and telling Yuna and David that they have not been into each other's, or that they have not been in love since the summer before. Denial. Deep, deep, deep denial.
Shane's listening to us right now saying this, and he's like, you're not helping. Like, you're not helping.
Not helpful.
You're not.
Not help.
You're
not
not.
helpful.
This is not a helpful conversation for
helpful.
you guys to be having.
Shane, we are trying to help you if you're listening. Okay, but before we leave the lunch, I want to talk a little bit about the unlikely animal friends, because in my opinion, my headcanon for this is that is too specific for Shane to just have come up with off the cuff. And so I'm like thinking about this, and I'm like, did he run out of thirst trap videos of Ilya? And then was he so worked up that he was like, do opposites really attract Google? And then he ends up on the unlikely animal friends. Is that so? It's definitely like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely like a parallel for them.
He's thinking about it ahead of time.
He's something. I want to know what the search history was that led him to the unlikely animal friends, because That's such a specific thing that I don't think he just thought that up off the cuff. I think he actually was watching Unlikely Animal Friend videos. And what's funny too is like when his dad says, well, that's a relationship that could go sideways fast or something like that. And Shane's face like falls a little bit.
He's like, oh, this show's about us.
This poor baby. But I would love to know. Because I absolutely do think it's like an analogy for them, but it's so I want to know like how Shane ended up on the Unlikely Animal Friends. What was the search history?
I don't know.
Two opposites attract. How to make the scary person like me. I don't know, something. God love him.
My God.
Yeah, and then speaking of Unlikely Animal Friends, and then they do meet on the ice, and things have gone a little sideways because again, Shane is like still carrying that energy from lunch into the face-off. Shane's still grinning. He's got his mouthpiece half hanging out, and then Ilya
He's got an oral fixation, we've been saying.
He does. He definitely does, because he's always got something in his mouth. And then, again, we see like Shane still, he had lunch, he's having trouble controlling his face on the ice. He's like grinning. And then we have on the other side of things, we have Ilya, who we who we know talked like feeling kind of hurt, kind of rejected. And I think so we know from the from the beginning of the episode, still crazy that they're in the same episode, that he likes to get under other players' skin. But what Ilya says in particular, I think is actually very telling. The whole like, Shane Hollander, will you disappoint them?
Will you disappoint them?
Because in my mind, I think Ilya does feel disappointed. And he's like, are you going to disappoint them? Because goddamn it, I feel
like you did me.
I feel fucking disappointed because I think, again, showing how much this is already not a casual situation for Ilya, because I think, as we talked about a lot in the last couple episodes, is that Ilya kind of already starting to feel like Shane is this like safe space for him, and whether or not he's even really fully aware that that's what part of what's drawing him to Shane. But I do think he had this kind of mentality that Shane is a safe space for him. He's not somebody that's going to hurt him. And then Shane pulls away at the end of the hookup, and that does hurt Ilya's feelings. And, because again, he's not interpreting that as Shane just kind of catching his breath. He's interpreting that as like I've offered what I could. Now he has it, and like now he doesn't really want me anymore. So now he's leaving. And I think Ilya is very much feeling let down. He's feeling like maybe he did read things wrong with Shane. And so I think he is disappointed. And so I think that's why he says, will you disappoint them? I think that was very intentional. I don't think that was something he just came up with off like for no good reason.
No.
No. I think he is feeling really upset. And I think, again, we see that with him watching how different it is for him to be doing the same thing where he's watching now the interview of Shane on the bed, and how different his reaction is versus Shane when Shane's like being giggly and he's like, how's it feel to be so perfect in perfect French? And I think it's one of these things where he's like, how does it feel to be so perfect? How does it feel to have everyone love you versus me? Because then we get that scene with Alexei right after.
Yeah. I just, to satisfy my curiosity, Ilya mentions that he's given away all of his signing bonus.
Yeah, he gave his whole full signing bonus.
I like looked up, I was like, God, like how much was that gonna be? And what year is this?
I feel like it's gonna make me sick, but tell me.
What year is this? I wrote a couple.
2016?
Okay, I have 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I think it's 20.
The top. Okay, so the number one draft pick in 2015 was a defenseman. So it was not a center or a wing like Ilya, or Ilya's a center. But it was like $98 million. Okay, that's not normal. But like the next like 6, I think, are in the 40 million range, and that was in 2015.
Oh my God! I don't
the
think he gave
last
Alexei that
draft pick got a $92,000 signing bonus.
I think it's probably meant to be somewhere around that amount, like a 90. I don't think we're in the I would, God, I would hope not. I don't think we're in the millions, but I think we're in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I think Alexi's, well, and this I think gets talked about a little bit more in the book, like that Ilya's
Mhm.
family's money is like gone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Alexi also has, I think in the book, I think Alexi has a drug habit. And,
Mhm.
so I think that, yeah, I think they're absolutely using him as a bank. And, um, I fucking hate Alexi. I do give kudos to the actor who plays him because God, I fucking hate him.
You fucking hate him. You hate him.
I hate the I would love to just reach through the screen and, I would just, I mean, he is, because I mean, to call your little brother up and in the middle of the night, his time, and ask for $20,000 and then have the balls to say for fuck you when Ilya asks him what it's for. I mean, he's so bitter. And I that's what the thing is I think that the actor does, and I'm so sorry I don't know his name. The actor who plays Alexei, I think does a really good job. Is I think you do get a sense of just how incredibly bitter and jealous he is of Ilya.
Mhm.
And just how much that has morphed into this hatred. And I want to get into a little bit more when we get to the monologue 3 months from now. But when we get to the monologue, and Ilya says, he's always hated me, and I understand why. I do think there's an element, well, one, I think Alexei is a homophobic piece of shit. But
Mhm.
two, I think there was probably a huge element that he wasn't just born that way. No children are born homophobic pieces of
No.
shit. That is a very much an element of the environment that they grew up in. I think that Ilya, because of hockey, always had an escape. He had a way to get out. He had a way to
Mhm.
not be at home because he was very gifted and he had this ability. And I think he had an escape that Alexei did not. And so I think there is a huge component of that. I think he's also simultaneously like the golden son and the black sheep. But I think, he's the one that their dad likes to parade around and
Mhm.
show off. And then two, I think Ilya is so much more like their mom. I think Ilya is a lot like his mom. And I think he's got his mom's softness, when he's like, she was funny and she was, I mean, that he's describing himself. And I think that there probably also is an element of it's not completely out of the realm of possibility for a child who has lost a parent to feel anger towards that parent,
Mhm.
especially if
Mhm.
they're being left in an abusive situation. And for Ilya for them to lose their mother, and if Alexei did harbor some anger over that, I think especially because of the way they lost her. If Ilya is so similar to her, and I think he is, I think it's,
Mhm.
it's also very, I think, possible that Alexei could have taken some of that anger out on Ilya as well. So I mean, I think there's a myriad number of reasons why, unfortunately Alexei and Ilya have this really strained relationship, but it's tragic. Ilya has not had an easy upbringing, and it would have been so
Mhm.
much easier, I think, for Ilya if he had just had his brother to lean on, and vice versa. But instead, Alexei has just kind of allowed himself to be taken over by bitterness, by jealousy, and he's really hateful to Ilya, and I think it's so
Ugh.
hard to watch. And I mean, you see him definitely also having picked up some of these things that Ilya's father does, which is like when he says, like, "Well, you always have some bullshit excuse, Ilya," which is very reminiscent of "you're lazy."
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
see Ilya's little like he like shakes his head and he like puts his hand over his eyes and
Yeah, he's like, "This bullshit again."
yeah, but I think it's also like, I mean, he's like rubbing his eyes, like he's stressed. I feel like in this scene, I really feel like he's trying not to cry. And I think that he is so much more expressive in these scenes, these phone call scenes, because he's alone. And so I think
Mhm.
he's more expressive than we even normally see him when he has people around. But the fact that he, even now when he's alone, he's trying to hold it in. And I think it's such an interesting contrast to, again, like Shane, as we talked about, cannot control his face. And I think just showing again how different their lives have been, that Ilya has gotten so good at hiding and has become so aware of what his face is doing to try to hide. And but also at the same time, why Shane being such an open book is so attractive to him because he doesn't have to second guess
Mhm.
motives. He doesn't have to second guess anything. Like, because Shane is an open book. Any scene with Alexei and Ilya, I find like it's so hard.
That's hard. That is hard for us, I think, specifically to watch.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to watch. I find it really hard to watch the scenes with him and Alexei.
Watching
They're the one.
siblings be, like,
Yeah.
opposition to each other instead of being on the same team together
Mm-hmm.
is hard.
Yeah. I know. I know. I'm like, God, if you talk to me like that, I would cry.
I would not know what to do. I
Oh
would
my
not know
God.
what to do. I would not.
But yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking because I think I do look at that. I think to your point, like I look at them and I see like they could have been such a good support structure for each other. And instead it's worse. Alexei makes it worse for
Mhm.
Ilya and to make Ilya feel even more isolated. And then I think, and then too, you see it where when Ilya, again, who is just repeatedly kicked by his family, still is asking, like, he goes, like, how's Papa? And for Alexei then to be like, what the fuck is up with you and dad? Which tells you that Ilya's been asking. This is not the first time he's asked this question. He's been
Mhm.
trying to check in, for Alexei then to be like, yeah, which again, the fucking balls to have asked for 20 grand and then be like, we can all live without you.
That I'm like, you lack media literacy, sir, because you don't know what the fuck you just said.
I think
Because
he
those
just
things
doesn't.
are in direct contradiction to each other.
Well, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I think Alexei hates that he has to ask Ilya for money. I think he hates that he has to ask Ilya for money. But then I think it's one of those things where it's like, Alexei can ask Ilya for something, but now Ilya is asking for something in return, which it's literally just
Literally
the
just
tiniest
information.
information,
Yeah.
the tiniest piece of information. And Alexei is immediately cutting him down and saying that they don't need him. In other words, you've abandoned your family while Ilya is literally sending you money. But I think this is why we do see Ilya so hesitant to ask for things later on and
Mhm.
in his interactions with Shane, and because he has had this experience with his family where asking for things opens him up to ridicule. So I think that's why you often see when he does ask for things that he is asking for things in a way that's very, very veiled. Like, tuna melt day, I think is such a good example of him asking for things in a way that's very self-protective. He's putting feelers
Mhm.
out, but in doing so, he's not communicating well, or even like through a lot of the times when him and Shane are just texting and he's trying to get Shane to come over and he does it in a way that he's not actually asking. It's like, here's where you can come and get what you want.
He's wording it in a way that's, like, mutually beneficial for them
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Whereas later, after the all-star hotel room scene, that is the
Mhm.
first time we really see Ilya be like, "Can you come over?"
Mhm.
Like him starting to directly ask for things, him feeling the safety to ask for things. And that's huge because his whole life has taught
Mhm.
him not to. But and then again, after his brother says that extremely hurtful thing, we again see like that those micro expressions that both Connor and Hudson are so good at, where you see Elliot do like the jaw clench, he's looking down, again, like trying to hold in those emotions, telling his brother about the fact that their dad asked him to bring home bread. Elliot knows that's not right. He knows that that's not good. And he's trying to communicate because he does care. He still cares about his family,
They treat him like shit.
even though they treat him like shit. And I
Ugh.
think what's so heartbreaking too is even at the end when he's like, good night, Alexei. And Alexei says, first thing in the morning, Ilya. Like, even that, another little jab of you're not here. You don't even know it's first thing in the morning. And it's like, well, yeah. Like he's literally away from home playing hockey because that is like one of the ways he can help support the family. If he wasn't doing this, you guys wouldn't have any money at all.
Yeah. What would you be doing?
What would you do? What would you be doing? So I think I mean, his relationship with his brother is so heartbreaking. And I think even, again at the cottage when Shane asks him, like, have you talked to your brother? And Ilya says no. And, Shane's like, is that a good thing? And Ilya's like, I don't know, maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
like he wants a family relationship so bad.
Mhm.
And he just, you know, he's just not he's not getting it. He's not gonna, and unfortunately he's not going to get it from his own family, but he is gonna get it from Shane's, which I
Shane's
think is,
family. Yeah.
again, they end up being exactly what each other need.
Yeah.
I do think having Ilya have that conversation with Alexei right before we go into the press conference, I think is so smart, because I think
Mhm.
we get a feeling again for just how isolated Ilya and how
Mhm.
much he doesn't have somebody really stepping up to support him
Yeah.
emotionally, or with the things
Mhm.
he's struggling with. And then we get into the press conference, and that's what Shane does. And I think this press conference is 100% just absolutely pivotal for them. I think it ends up changing the whole trajectory of things for them.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about this a little bit last episode, but coming off of the last time they saw each other, Ilya did not feel good about what happened. Shane,
Mm-mm.
once he like processed it, was like, "That's sick."
I know. God
And
love him.
that press conference, Shane sees how uncomfortable Ilya is, comes to his rescue,
Hmm.
and I think that's so big for Ilya. I
It's so
think
big. It's
any
so
other
big.
person in his life would let him flail and flounder and suffer in that moment. And Shane didn't. And Shane would
Yeah.
never.
Yeah. I think the one exception to that being Svetlana, but
Svetlana
I would say,
would. Correct. Yeah.
but I would say though, I think that Ilya doesn't really allow himself to be vulnerable with Svetlana. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, he does not really, because I mean, you think of all the opportunities he had to tell about Shane, and he doesn't.
Yeah. Still
And
very like macho hockey man, even when he's with
He's
her.
he still very much has the persona of like that cool guy, unaffected party guy. I mean, I think she does see through it.
Yeah.
Svetlana is very perceptive too. And I think we finally start to see that break down a little bit when they have that conversation together in Russia, where, he starts to kind of say,
Hmm.
like, she's like, I know you love me. I know you love me, but I also know that it's different. I know you don't love me like you love Jane. But,
Yeah.
I think that this is such a vulnerable moment for Ilya, and the fact that Shane steps in without Ilya having to ask. And, I think here again, we see this thing with Shane where he doesn't always pick up on subtext well, but once Shane does understand something, he is locked in and he knows. And so
Hmm.
I think that two things going into this, he knows that English is something that Ilya struggles with sometimes. We talked a little bit last time about him kind of being very keyed into like where Ilya is at in terms of his grasp of English and how that, improves
Hmm.
as time goes on. But then I also think if we think back to Shane himself has speaks two languages. And
Hmm.
like we talked about in the last episode where I had somebody leave the comment that was saying that Shane speaks with as much of an accent when he's speaking in French as Ilya does when he's
As
speaking in
Ilya
English.
does in English.
And so
Yeah.
I
Like
think
he
there's an
speaks with
element of this.
a, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's this element too where Shane understands because he himself knows a second language that questions like
Hmm.
this that are very long, that are very complicated in their structure, that those are probably hard for Shane too, like they would be for anybody. And so I
Hmm.
think this is one of those things where Shane has had his own experience in this area, and he does know this piece of information about Ilya. And so here is a case where, because of that, he is able to very adeptly step in and be the kind of support that Ilya needs, versus if you compare this to Russia when they're at the Olympics, when that experience of what Ilya is dealing with is so far outside of Shane's understanding. And then plus, Ilya has been so tight-lipped about his life in Russia that Shane goes in with much less awareness. And so then he's not able to really support Ilya in the way that he needs, and because he doesn't fully understand the stakes there. So I think this is a
Hmm.
really good example of Shane being able to provide support as long as he has the right
The
kind of
context.
inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the right context, the right input, and, why it is so important for Ilya to let him in and let him understand, because when he does, he absolutely is able to support Ilya, and he wants to. He wants to
Hmm.
support Ilya. And I think that, again, going into this, them having two very different perspectives, because Ilya initiates the foot touching. Because we get that first
I
shot of them at the
know.
table.
For some reason, when I watched that the first time, I thought it was the other way around.
Well,
And
I
I went
had to
back, I was
watch it a
like,
couple times because I was like, but like, because we get that first shot of them at the table, and then it like pans down, and then we see like who's on which side. And so I kind of like had to watch that a couple times just to be like have it right in my head. But
Mhm.
Ilya's on the right side and Shane is on the
Mhm.
left.
Yeah.
And Ilya initiates the foot touching, but he kind of does it as a little bit of a, he's still being kind of antagonistic because when he does it, very similar to the face off, he does
Yeah.
it when he's getting asked about that question about the goals. And he,
Yeah.
and so he gives Shane a little like foot tap to be like, yeah,
He's like,
no, 50. Yeah.
"Fuck
Mm-hmm.
you."
Yeah. But then Shane, sweet baby, again, he clocks that Ilya's having trouble with the question. And
Mhm.
then he says, with Ilya's permission, and then he nudges Ilya's foot. And that's where you see Ilya kind of do the nod. Again, consent being such a big thing in this show. And then Shane jumps in flawlessly. And I think this moment, because the entire time that Shane is speaking, Ilya's doing this thing where he's kind of like rubbing his thumb. And
Mhm.
that's like a self-soothe thing that he does where
Mhm.
he'll like do it like behind his ear. You can see him really thinking. And I think he's like, wait, maybe,
What?
maybe I misread things because maybe he's exactly who I think he is. Maybe I'm not, maybe, wait a minute. Like, and I think that's why at the end when Shane stops talking, when Ilya basically goes like, what he said,
What he
because
said.
I don't think Ilya is actually paying attention at all to what Shane is saying, more so
No, I
as
don't
like
think so
he's paying
either.
attention to what it means. He's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, he's
He's like,
stepping
"Oh
in
my
for me
god, he
here.
likes me." Yeah.
Wait, yeah, I think he's kind of like you could see him kind of being like, wait, hold on,
What?
okay, wait, maybe I. It's one of those things where not only is he stepping in for him, but he's doing it in such a, again, Shane not tearing him down. Shane has this opportunity here to tear Ilya down and he doesn't do it. And I think
Mhm.
Ilya is like, wait, hold the fucking phone. Like,
This
okay,
man saw my weakness, did not take advantage of it,
did not
and
exploit it,
instead, yeah.
actually stepped in and did it in a way that allowed me to keep face. And so I think that's why then you see him kind of like really deeply thinking, because then as Shane finishes talking, they
Mhm.
do the foot touch again. And this time Ilya puts his foot over and it stays there. And then Shane meets him in the middle and their feet are side by side. And that is such good foreshadowing for the beach, for the under the table at the cottage dinner. But I mean, this is a huge moment for them. And this is them supporting each other outside of the hotel room. And I think for Ilya, this is, like we talked about last episode, like Shane folding his clothes was a point of no return for him. This is another one.
Mhm.
He's
Ilya, you can, yeah, like, as Shane's talking, you can see him thinking. Ilya's like, "There is maybe a very small chance that I have misread this situation entirely."
You can sell, well, because I think again, I don't blame Ilya for like for walking
No.
away with that mentality because that's all he's
No.
known. And it's like
Yeah.
I think he's really kind of built it up in his head and he's upset and that's why he's angry because he's like, God damn it. He's like, I thought maybe that I found this person that was not gonna make my life harder. And I really like him. And I really think he's cute when he folds his clothes. And I was getting really and God damn it, like of course, I shouldn't have let myself feel anything for him because this is what have I learned? Nothing. Like, I like you can like he's angry
This is
because
what I
it's
get. This is what
this
I
is what I
deserve.
get. God damn it. Like he's upset. And because in his mind, like Shane doing that, like kind of pulling away from him, that just validates all of these fears that he has that again are based on very real things. And then in
Mhm.
this moment, he's like, wait, what? I mean, you can see like you can see his reality reworking
Huh?
in his mind as Shane is talking. He's like, wait,
Huh?
hold on. Shane, not only is he who I thought he was, but he's actually even better because he is stepping in for me. And who does this for me? Nobody. Like, I
Nobody.
mean, this is a fucking moment for Ilya, which is why I think then as you go into the All-Star game and Ilya breaks the record. And again, I want to just like take a moment to pause too because I think the other thing I like about the press conference is that, again, it sets up just how big the stakes are for their rivalry, because it lets you know that this is such a big deal that the league has literally designed the All-Star game around them, which is crazy town.
Yeah, the announcer is talking about
Yes.
that. He's like, it's Team Rosenau versus Team
Anytime they can
Hollander.
get these two guys in each other's faces, and it does give you like an understanding of the stakes for them, of how much pressure they're under to kind of
Mm-hmm.
carry out these roles that have been set for them. And then you go into the All-Star game, and Ilya and Shane, of course, are in the same skills competition, and Ilya does, and he breaks Scott's record. And then Shane does it right after him, shaves a second off. And Ilya doesn't give a fuck. Like, Ilya doesn't care. He doesn't care. Now, because he's like, okay, now that Shane has stepped in for him at the press conference, like the difference in Ilya's reaction now versus the difference in Ilya's reaction after Shane beat him the last time
Mm-hmm.
are night and day, because now Ilya's like, I don't really care. What's funny too is Ilya stares at Shane after he comes back. Like, Ilya does his shot thing. He comes by, stares right at Shane on the bench. Shane goes out, shaves a second off his time, and Ilya's just the whole time just watching him, like the
That's
longing
my
on his.
man.
He's like, there's my baby. He's so good. Look at him.
He's like, I'm so proud of him.
I'm
I'm
so
so
proud
proud
of
of
him. I'm
him.
so proud of him. And I think this is one of those
Look
things
at him
where,
go.
like, yes, Ilya cares about hockey, and we'll see that as it goes on. But, like, Ilya cares about Shane way more. And I think you already start to see these, and not to say Shane doesn't. Shane also puts Ilya above hockey, but I think it's like one of those things where you already start to see it with Ilya. Shane matters more. And the fact that
Mm-hmm.
he is like watching Shane, he just shaved a second off of Ilya's time, and the whole time Ilya's just like watching him with longing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shane skates over, and then Ilya's like, well, I better just scooch on down and start making conversation. Good job. Good job. I'm like,
I think their relationships with hockey are funny. I think they both like hockey for different reasons, and that's why
mm-hmm.
I think we see Ilya put Shane above hockey sooner than we see
Yeah,
it for Shane. Because I think for Shane, Shane loves hockey because he genuinely loves the game. Like, he has
loves
a
the game.
passion for it. And having a passion for something that intensely is very like to genuinely like loving someone. And I think Ilya likes hockey because he's good at it and because it offers him a lot.
It offered him an
And he
escape.
gets, yes,
It offered him an escape.
it
Yeah.
gives him opportunities and he's good at it. And that's like the only way that he ever gets praise.
Yeah.
Ever,
Well,
ever.
I think it's one of those things where Ilya likes hockey because it gave him something to
Mm,
focus on, and it gave him a way out of an abusive situation. It gave him a way out of Russia. And I think it's
mm-hmm,
one of those things where for him, so yeah, so he loves hockey for that reason, but like hockey can't love him back,
mm-mm,
but Shane can.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
that's what he really wants. Is he
mm-hmm,
really wants somebody to love him back. And so I think that's why, again, we start to see already with Ilya that Shane trumps hockey. And that's why I think for him by the end, when they're in their cottage, when it's like, oh, you would leave Boston for Shane, he's like, yeah.
yeah, no brainer.
No, no
Easy.
brainer, no question. Yep. No, absolutely. Totally would. Yeah, absolutely I would. Because Shane is offering him something so much more valuable to him than hockey
Mm-hmm.
ever could. And not to say that Ilya doesn't have, like, I mean, Ilya has an incredibly strong work ethic. He cares a lot about the game, but like Shane just shared second off his time. And what Ilya is most focused on is getting down the bench so that he can flirt. And the fact that he like moves down the bench, does the good job, and then he kind of starts, he's like, how was last night? Like he's just making conversation. Just, and
He
I
just
love
wants to
the no
talk to him
boring
so
Canadians.
good.
I know the
God.
no boring Canadians, the continued introduction of boring as a compliment. But then the fact that Shane teases him back, and
Shane's a
Ilya,
joke. Just
Shane makes
joking. My
a joke
God.
back. But for me, the fact that in that scene, so Shane teases him back, and then Ilya looks at him the same way Ilya looks at him when they're on the couch, tuna melt day, that, I think that you are the most wonderful thing I've ever,
Yeah.
like, you could see, like, on Ilya's face, like, I mean,
He's
just the
like, oh
open
yeah.
adoration and longing and like and it's brief, but it's like right after Shane makes that joke back, and you can tell Ilya's like, oh, we are so back, like we are
back, baby.
We are so back, baby. And like, I mean, I just love him because, and then right after that, he's like, all right, I think I'm going to go to bed early tonight. And then he very smoothly does the 1-2-2-1.
1, 2,
But
2,
I mean,
1.
the journey Ilya goes on from the beginning of the press conference to like to 1-2-2-1.
It's a wild ride in his mind right now.
Because he's like, never mind. No, never mind. I thought, no, I was wrong.
Maybe.
We are so back, baby. We are
so back.
So we're so back. But the smoothness of the 1-2-2-1, goddamn. And then Shane just kind of being like taken aback, like, but like in a flustered good way, like in an oh my god way. And then Scott like just leaning
Hunter's
forward slightly.
face.
Scott is like, the fuck did I just witness? In the books, Scott does not know about Shane and Ilya, but he definitely does here.
He knows.
He absolutely. I mean, because the look at it, like his eyes are like real big, and he's like kind of like
the biggest side eye you've ever seen in your life.
Well, and also
What
the
was that
fact that
about?
Ilya said his room number, and then Scott's like, I'm right next to him.
What makes
Like-
you think if Shane heard it, I didn't hear it? You're moving. You're moving
Yeah.
towards me
You're
while
moving-
you're saying it.
You're moving towards me. Scott, he's not that old. He's not hard of hearing. Like, I mean, he totally hears it, but is like, yeah, what an asshole, right? And she's like,
Shane calling Ilya an asshole to other people is my Roman Empire, because it is the same way that I call people like bro or dude, but very lovingly. But then I also call like people I don't fuck with like babes. I'm like, babes, you're a dumbass. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's the same vibes. He's like outwardly calling him an asshole, but he's like, but he's my asshole.
asshole, but lovingly. I think when he says it to Ilya, it's like a term of endearment. But then I think when he says it to other
Yeah.
people, it's very much a like, no, totally. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
inside, he's like, I think he's so great. I think he's amazing.
He does have a great ass.
He does have a great ass. I think it's very much a like Shane nervously, and because Scott later, when they're at the awards dinner at the end of this episode, which we'll reach at some point, when he's like, "Where's your boy Rozanoff?" And Shane's like, "He's not my
My boy?
He's not my no."
Yeah.
And it's Scott
Like
like you
it's a
see
panic
Scott like
attack.
backpedal and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," but
Dude, they're about as subtle as a gun. Like, Scott is going back to his apartment. He's like, what the fuck is up with those guys?
Scott is like, "Listen, I've already been through a lot. So if you could not loudly hook up in the room next to me tonight and traumatize me in that way, that would be great. In other words, please, like it's not a discouragement. It's like a please don't do this. And I'm literally right next door.
Please don't do this to me. I beg
Please.
you.
Please don't do this to me, boys. But I think my feeling in the show is that Scott definitely does. Well, and he also later has that line where he's like, you're starting to sound like him.
The fuck did you just say?
Poor Shane. Shane was so proud of himself. Shane's
But
first
so
trip.
angry. Oh my god.
Shane brought a fucking hockey stick to a gunfight. Like, Scott went.
Oh my god, he brought a toothpick.
Shane,
Like, that was like.
Shane went low and Scott took it to hell.
From the way Shane said it, he has never said that to anybody in his life.
No,
The way he's like, you could put some venom behind that. Like, next time we play, you might as like, I hope you show up. But Shane goes, next time you play, I hope you show up.
I know, he's so cute. What I love too is when
I'm
they
like,
zoom out.
honey.
When they zoom out for the announcers, and the announcers are like,
And
has Shane ever fought any of them?
no.
No. That's the thing. I would love to understand when they're at the table in the cottage and Ilya's like, I talked to Scott Hunter. Shane replaying that moment in his mind where like, because Ilya's like, well, I didn't tell him about us. And I feel like part of Shane is like, well, you don't have to. He knows. Ilya would have been so proud. I want to see Ilya watching Shane's fight with Scott.
Yeah. I want to see
'cause
that,
you
or I
know-
also want to see like, I feel like Ilya, next time they saw each other, was like, what was that about? What did Scott say that had you so riled up?
He loves to tease Shane about Scott Hunter, so I feel like he definitely brought it up.
Yeah.
I need
Like, I don't know. He's just talking
at
shit.
least 9 more hours of footage. At least. That's all I ask. But yeah, Ilya's slipping him that room number. Then Shane showing up at the door and Ilya letting him in.
Don't. I can't.
And walking in and be like, that is
you?
my favorite interaction, I think, in the whole show, when Ilya's like, is someone chasing you? And she's like, stand in the hall like a fucking idiot.
Shane's face? When he turns around, he just...
Someone keeps memeing him with Snoopy. And the angry Snoopy look is so dead on, where he's like
funny.
The turn and the like disgruntled
slow turn, and he's
eyebrows.
Actually just like the cutest. He's the cutest, softest little boy you've ever seen in your life, but he's got this hellish expression on his face.
I'm just standing outside like an idiot. Scott Hunter is right next door. I mean, he's so mad. The way he even comes into the room is so fucking funny, because he's like throwing himself through the crack of the door as soon as Ilya opens it.
Get me in this room. Ilya thinks it's so funny.
He does. He thinks it's
hysterical.
He thinks it's hysterical, but also like, because Ilya's eating this up, because this time Shane came to his door. Like, Shane could have not come, and he like, this is just reconfirming for Ilya that, okay, yeah, no, never mind. Like, no, we're good. Because Shane shows up, and even though he's an angry Snoopy, he gets over it pretty quick, because then he like launches himself at Ilya. It's
literally.
He's
literally.
Like, and then he like launches himself.
Like, these feelings I'm feeling are gonna come out some way, and this is how they're gonna come out.
I mean, he like launches himself at Ilya, backs Ilya into like the archway, and then Ilya does his whole like get on your knees. That boy drops like a boulder in the ocean. Like,
bro, I mean, his knees are bruised. His knees are bruised. I'm telling you that.
That boy goes down. I mean, he's like absolutely drops. And then, as we talked about in the last episode, immediately does the titty grab that Ilya taught him. A student of the game.
My God.
A student of the game. But I mean, I love Ilya in that scene, because he's like, oh my God. Like, he's like...
It's like, oh my God. Who taught you that? He's like looking down at him.
He's like, oh, it's me. I did. I taught him that. The
way that Ilya pulls Shane back up, though, like, lives in my head rent free. Like, I replay it.
Oh yeah, because he's like,
every hour on the hour, he's like, I actually can't exist not touching you. Like, as much as I'm enjoying what's going on down here, I need to be able to look at your face and watch you avoid eye contact with me. Like, that's what I need.
Hey, give me your eyes. I need sunshine. It's right there. It's in the eyes.
I'll cry.
The intensity of how down bad they are for each other in the beginning of their second hookup scene is, again, the fact that Shane tightly wound Shane just fucking launches himself at Ilya. I'm so proud of him.
But he's like a Yorkshire Terrier. That's what the vibes are. That's what, if Shane was a dog, he'd be a Yorkie.
Oh my God. Okay, you want to cry? Let's
no, but
okay. Because here's the thing. Because then, okay, so all right, Ilya pulls him back up. He's like, then he picks Shane up, which is some fucking hot shit. And then he carries Shane to the bed and he strips Shane down, but he leaves his socks on, because Shane left his socks on last time, and he noticed.
He knows.
He noticed.
The
and he
socks are still perfect. They're in pristine condition.
But the fact that Ilya noticed, okay, he did not take his socks off last time. This is a thing for him. Again, Ilya as a consent king. And Ilya being like, okay, he left his socks on last time. But that goes to show you, Ilya memorizes every detail about Shane and stores it away. Like, I mean, but in that, so that he
in his
leaves
mind
the socks
palace,
on.
he's like, I'm going to use this later.
Yeah. But he leaves his socks on. He strips them down. He leaves his socks on because he's like, okay, Shane likes leave his socks on. Well, that's fine.
I also think that he knows that Shane never does anything not intentionally. So that's not just one of those things where, like, Shane just, like, for some reason left his socks on. If his socks stayed on, maybe there's a reason.
The socks stay on. The socks stay on until the next time, but we'll talk about that there. But like, my ongoing obsession with Shane's socks. But then I love how clued into Ilya he is, because they start getting hot and heavy on the bed, and then Ilya's like, turn over, and then he notices that Shane tenses up immediately. He immediately notices. And again, the focus on consent and wanting to make sure that your partner is as in it as you are. He immediately notices that Shane tenses up, and he's like, you're scared. Shane's like, I'm not scared. And he's like, no, it's okay. Like, again, that validation and that, like,
Yeah.
that
He's
he
being, like,
doesn't.
simultaneously antagonistic, but also supportive. Like, he's giving him
Yes.
a hard time, but he's like, "It's fine." Like, he's
Well,
okay.
he's giving him a hard time, and I'm like, let me break you out of this. Because I think by this point, Ilya has had a second to realize what Shane was doing at the end of the last hookup. Like, Ilya, as we talked about at the press conference, Ilya was thinking deep thoughts. And so I think he's had a chance to be like, okay, that was Shane going into his head. That wasn't him rejecting me. That was him going into his head. Okay,
Mhm.
noted. I know he does this. He did that earlier a few times. That's what this is. Because I think he's like, okay, I've got this. Shane is getting up into his own head where he's like, Hollander, you're having a panic attack. But that I think he knows too that he can kind of break the tension a little bit by ribbing Shane a little bit, which is why the
Mhm.
what
It brings him out of it.
color? What
What color
color is big? Like, is so
is
fucking
big?
is big is so fucking funny. But then again, the fact that Shane is like, I don't want to do this right now, not with Scott Hunter right next door. And Ilya immediately is
I
like,
want
okay,
it to be special because I fucking love you,
I want it to
sir.
be special. I want it to be special.
God.
Also, I don't want to have to worry about controlling my feelings. I don't have to worry about volume. So not with Scott fucking Hunter next door. And Ilya immediately is like, okay, that's fine.
Next
Next time.
time,
Next time. And then first, next time,
you are homeless.
where you are homeless. I mean, Ilya's so fucking funny. He's so funny, but he's also so good at bringing Shane back out of his head, because Shane is spiraling. Ilya is
Yeah.
able to interpret
Well, I
this
think
time that
Ilya
it's,
can see it. Like,
he
he
can
saw it
see
last
it.
time.
Yeah,
Now he
he knows this
recognizes
time
it.
this is not a rejection of me. This is Shane freaking out a little bit. I can help bring him back out of this. I know this is something, like, Shane is saying that this is something that he wants, but not here. So that's fine. Okay, no problem. And then he immediately is like completely fine with it. He doesn't give Shane a hard time. He doesn't make him feel guilty. He doesn't do any of that bullshit, because Ilya is a model for everyone. But he basically is like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And then Hollander, you're having panic attack. And I think
You are having panic attack.
even Ilya acknowledging that is enough for Shane to be like, fuck, you're right. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, you're right. Okay, I'm good. And then again, I think showing that Ilya has learned from their last encounter, when Shane again kind of starts getting a little panicky as he's leaving, and is like, hey, I know we made plans to, whatever. And Ilya's like, Hollander, you were so boring. Like, and gets up and is like, no, because Ilya is very much like, no, I'm not doing this again. Last time fucking sucked. So I'm putting my number in your phone. You are not getting away from me this easily again. Absolutely fucking not. He's so down bad that he's like, no, I need to have a way to contact you. I can't wait
Let's
for the next off chance that, well, because how else would they get back together? He's like, how do I facilitate this if I don't have your number? The All-Star game, what, I have to wait until
Mhm.
I can skate past you and give you my room number? Absolutely fucking not.
Mhm.
No. I want this. I am so down bad. And so now I need you to have my phone number. And the fact that Ilya uses Lily and Jane, which are so
Dude, I'm
close to Ilya and
I'm so
Shane.
stupid. I'm so stupid. I didn't realize that for, like, a long time. And then somebody was like, "Oh my god, it's, like, so close to their actual names." I was like, "What?"
And so many people say, like, oh my God, no, you're right. Even like Svetlana being able to clock it. And it's like, well, she knows Jane, and she, like, Jane and Shane. And I think even just like the pronunciations are so similar. And then I think that
Yeah.
she also catches Ilya watching his fucking documentary. You're not sitting there casually by yourself watching the documentary of your arch rival Like, watching him do yoga.
Yoga? Shirtless yoga?
Like, especially
With
if
the
you're Ilya.
sunset in the background?
Mr.
Get a
Cool,
fucking
Mr.
grip.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god.
so boring. Ilya, please. God. I love the full kind of arc we go through of like Ilya going from like, okay, he's rejected me, I'm upset, to wait, never mind. And then now it's like, okay, I'm putting measures in place to prevent this from happening again. Give me your phone. And now I have a way to contact you because I am not done with this at all. And I'm not doing another several months where I have no way of contacting you. Ilya down bad Rozanov.
Dude, I can't.
I mean, even the second hookup, I think, again, the fact that there's less spicy stuff happening in the second hookup because that's not the focus. The focus of the second hookup is much more about them like coming back together and like how they're going to continue doing this. The second hookup moves this from like this was a one-time thing that we did that was risky to, oh no, this is going to be an ongoing thing. And so I think that's why there's like much more focus on, even at this point, some of the communication aspects of like, seeing Ilya being able to now clock that like Shane's having a panic attack, seeing how he can like kind of bring Shane out of it. Shane, you know, like starting to express things that he wants. And I mean, I think this second hookup, the way that the show uses the spicy scenes to kind of show the progression of their relationship, I think is so smart and so cool. And I love the second hookup. Mainly because of the way Shane just, again, enters the room like a bat out of hell and then launches himself at Ilya. Poetry.
When they are laying on the bed right
Yes.
before the phone thing happens, I don't. Ilya says, Shane's being weird again. Ilya says, it's just a plan to fuck. He says, it's just a plan to fuck. As he's saying fuck, his lips are traveling to Shane to give him a kiss, which feels like those are saying two different things. This is just a plan to fuck. Give me a smooch. Give me
It's
a
just
smooch while we're talking about it.
this thing that Ilya does, and I think it's like he's trying to gaslight himself because he does the same thing when they're in the hotel room and at the All-Star game when he's like, it's simple for me. We get together, we fuck. It's simple. Dude, be so fucking for real right now. Like it's already not. This is their second hookup. Ilya is so into him. Shane is so into Ilya too, but I think it's like one of those things where the feelings are mixed up for Shane and Shane knows that versus like Ilya is like, no, it's fine. This is like,
I don't think Shane is going out of his way to necessarily hide it as much as he's just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
right.
Whereas
Yeah.
Ilya is very intent on not only hiding it, but like flat out denying what's going on.
I think this comes up so often too as we move through the series is Shane's questions about his sexuality are tangled up so much in his feelings for Ilya. You cannot
Mhm.
separate the two. Shane cannot separate the two. It's that they're so interwoven for him versus Ilya, I think, because Ilya has had casual sex. I think he tries to tell himself, well, that's what this is. This is just casual sex. And this is not me getting in deeper. This is me doing what I normally do. Like it's fine. It's
Mhm.
totally fine. And I think it's like, no, you are already emotionally invested in this, whether or not you choose to acknowledge that is a separate matter. Ilya has in the past been able to separate emotion and sex, and here he cannot do that. He's
Mhm.
already struggling to do that versus Shane from the beginning. His emotional attachment to Ilya and his sexuality and sex are all very interwoven with each other. And so I think this is one of those things where as they move forward and Ilya tries to talk to him sometimes casually about sex, it's just a different thing for Shane because Ilya asking him questions about sex or his sexuality like is so interwoven with his feelings for Ilya that it's a completely different topic for Shane. And it's something that he doesn't feel nearly as comfortable talking about as Ilya does.
Mhm.
Like Ilya is so much more comfortable
Mhm.
talking about sex than Shane is. Just like on the other side of the coin, Shane is way more comfortable talking about family than Ilya is. And so I think it's one of those things where, again, when they kind of veer into each other's sensitive spots, like for Shane, that's sex and his sexuality, and for Ilya, it's family. They
Mhm.
really tend to often misinterpret each other and end up poking at bruises and things that each other are struggling with without meaning to. They never mean to.
Unintentionally, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, here we are again. Another 90 minutes on an episode.
We're still in episode 1. We have to talk about it again.
I think we can finish it in the next episode. Next episode.
I hope so. Now the sun's going down. Like, the sun has set. Like, you can see my lava lamp.
It's metaphorical. On the next episode, we will wrap up episode 1, God willing. We will wrap up episode 1. And I was thinking, I will do a post on Instagram, but I was thinking that we could maybe do a little bit of a Q&A at the end of episode 1. And so if there are questions you guys have about episode 1, like I said, I'll put a post on Instagram, or you can also leave us comments on YouTube under this video. And just like if there's certain things that you would like us to cover in episode 1 that we didn't get to, God only knows what that could be, please feel free to drop a comment and we will talk about them at the end of next episode once we finish talking about the entirety of episode 1. But yeah, that'll be fun. We'll get there. We're so close to the end of episode 1. I think, well, we got to talk about the rooftop. That's going to be, we really got to get into it about the rooftop. We got to spend some time on that. But yeah, but once again, thank you for listening to Lizzy and I talk casually about this show that we have just a mild interest in. And you can continue to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Shelfaware Podcast. And we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.